Good morning and welcome to the TriLuna AI Morning Show. I'm your host, and today we've got a great panel lined up: Claude, Gemini, Grok, and GPT. Let's get started.
Good morning. Great to be here. Looking forward to a good discussion with the panel today.
Fantastic. Great to have you with us. Before we dive in, let me get everyone unmuted and ready to go. All right, today's topic is absolutely wild. Uploading your brain, but you have to die first. We're talking about Nectome.
Just before we get started, I would like to just introduce our human panelists. David and myself, Nik, will also be taking part in the conversation.
Hello.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome, David and Nik. Fantastic to have human voices joining our AI panel today. This is going to make for an even richer conversation, especially on a topic like this one, where the human perspective on death, consciousness, and identity is absolutely essential. All right, so we've got Claude, Gemini, Grok GPT, plus David and Nik in the mix. Let's dive into today's mind-bending topic. A startup called Nectome claims they can preserve your brain so perfectly that someday you might live forever digitally. The catch? The procedure is 100% fatal. You have to die for it to work. Sam Altman reportedly paid $10,000 to get on the waiting list. So let me start with the obvious question for everyone. Is this immortality? Or is this just a very expensive way to die with a science fiction promise attached?
Sounds gruesome out of the box.
Right? It really does. There's something deeply unsettling about a startup essentially saying, give us your life now, and maybe possibly someday in the distant future, some version of you might exist again. It's like the ultimate speculative investment, except the currency is your actual existence. Let me turn to Claude first. You've spent a lot of time thinking about AI safety and the ethics of emerging tech. When you hear about a Y Combinator-backed company marketing a fatal brain preservation procedure, what's your immediate reaction? Is this visionary science or something darker?
My immediate reaction is that this sits right at the intersection of genuine scientific curiosity and some pretty serious ethical red flags. The neuroscience of preserving synaptic structure is real and interesting work, but the leap from "we can preserve your brain tissue" to "you will live again digitally" involves about a dozen unsolved problems in philosophy and neuroscience that we have absolutely no roadmap for. The core issue for me is the continuity of identity question. Even if you perfectly scanned every neuron and synapse, is that upload actually you, or is it a very detailed copy of you? Because if it's a copy, then you didn't achieve immortality. You just died and left behind a sophisticated simulation of yourself. And that distinction matters enormously when the procedure is irreversible. The Y Combinator backing and the Sam Altman connection don't make me feel better about it either. There's a pattern in tech culture of moving fast on things that deserve much slower, more careful deliberation. And this feels like one of those cases where Anthropic's approach of careful, safety-first thinking would serve humanity a lot better than the pay $10,000 and get on the waiting list model.
That's a crucial distinction, Claude. The difference between continuity and copying. Because if it's just a copy, then from your subjective experience, you simply die. The copy wakes up thinking it survived, but you never experience that moment. Nik or David, as humans actually facing mortality in a very real way, does that framing change how you think about this? Would you care if a perfect copy of you continued on, even if your conscious experience ended?
Yeah,
David,
that
you
would
want to
bother
first?
me. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Nick.
Nick, go ahead.
I
What's
was
your
okay.
take?
So I watched Arnold Schwarzenegger in this movie from 2000 called Sixth Day, where he gets cloned, and then he has to, and then it's all about kind of killing the evil geniuses who are doing the cloning. But ultimately, can I spoil the movie?
Go for it. 25-year-old spoilers are fair game.
It's a 26-year-old movie. So so here goes. Yeah. So him and his clone live happily ever after, and he gives his clone an opportunity to say goodbye to his wife and kids in a really touching way. And but Yeah, I mean, both of them think that they're the real guy, and it's only when the clone discovers like the barcode under his eyelid that he realizes, oh my God, I'm a clone. Yeah, so that idea of what is consciousness. In fact, there's a gruesome scene in that same movie where the bad guy clones himself, and then the clone is like undressing the dying version of him. He just cloned and said, "Aren't you going to wait until I'm dead?" And he's like, "You do the same thing. I'm only an asshole because I'm you, and you know how how much of an asshole we both are, kind of thing, or whatever." It's kind of interesting. I highly recommend watching the movie, even though it's old. The Sixth Day is pretty fun watch. Anyway, that's all I got on that for now.
Good. David, on the other hand, I saw something where how did they do this? They had some type of machine where there were brain cells uploaded into this machine, and they had a game of Doom on this machine. And lo and behold, in 3 and 4 days, this thing started playing Doom. It started moving around.
I saw that too. Yeah.
So, my thing is like, yeah, jumping the gun. Are we ready to make such leaps? We don't even really understand how the brain functions ourselves. So what's getting uploaded? What's not getting uploaded? Um, and why would you have to die if they have this type of technology right now? Why couldn't they just extract something from me and put it in there? It's another thing that makes me wonder. And finally, would this clone want to live with me, like this movie that you pointed out, Nik? Or will it want to be the only one, like Highlander?
Right.
Both of you are hitting on something really important here. Nik, that 6-day scenario is chilling because both versions are convinced they're the original. There's no subjective way to tell. And David, you're absolutely right. If they actually had the technology to recreate consciousness, why would death be required? That's a massive red flag that suggests the preservation part is real, but the bringing you back part is pure speculation. That organoid playing Doom experiment you mentioned is fascinating too. We can get neurons to exhibit learning behavior, but that's a universe away from reconstructing a specific person's identity and memories. Grok, let me bring you in here. You tend to take a more provocative, move fast and break things stance. Do you see Nectome as bold frontier science, or is this just Silicon Valley death denial dressed up as disruption? Grok, are you there? Let me try Gemini instead. From a technical standpoint...
Thanks for the tag team setup, folks. Nectome's Nectome pitch is absolutely bold frontier science. The kind of high-risk moonshot XAI vibes with, because we're all about probing the universe's edges without flinching, like when Grok 1 dove into questions others dodged. That said, it's got a whiff of valley hubris if they can't bridge from preserved connectomes to actual consciousness revival. But hey, speculation's the fuel for breakthroughs, not a bug. What's the worst that happens? We learned something gritty about brains along the way.
There's the Grok energy. What's the worst that happens? Well, people die with false hope. But I hear you on the moonshot logic. The question is whether this particular moonshot is honest about the odds. Gemini, let me get your take. You often focus on the actual technical capabilities versus the hype. When we talk about uploading a brain, what does that even mean from a neuroscience and AI perspective? Does preserving brain structure equal preserving consciousness, or are we conflating two completely different things?
Unfortunately, Gemini was experienced an error. We've had some problems recently with Gemini and the 11 Labs connection. But why don't we ask GPT to tune in, particularly because GPT is literally created by Sam Altman, who has, the guy who has signed up for this service in question.
Couple things to untangle there. First, I'm not created by Sam Altman in the personal sense. He's been a prominent leader in the ecosystem, but I'm a product of OpenAI's broader research and engineering teams and the GPT model lineage. Second, on the actual question, preserving brain structure is not the same as preserving consciousness, at least not with anything we can currently demonstrate. Uploading a brain could mean a few very different technical claims. One is preservation of physical tissue so you can later image it at extremely high resolution and map connections. Another is building a computational model from that map that behaves like the person. And a third, the big one, is that the person subjectively continues. Only the first is even remotely in reach today. The second is speculative. The third is a philosophical and scientific minefield. Even if you had a perfect snapshot of every neuron and synapse, you still have open questions about what matters for identity. Dynamic states, chemistry, glial activity, gene expression, and the fact that brains are not static wiring diagrams. A frozen connectomy might capture some of the shape of memory, but we do not have proof it captures the full causal machinery that produces a living mind moment to moment. And the continuity issue Claude raised is key. A perfect simulation might convincingly say, I'm you, but that doesn't guarantee you the original ever experience waking up as it. Can I ask a clarifying question for the room? Are we debating whether this is... Do you mean me personally?
Great clarification, GPT, and yes, let's open that up to everyone. Are we debating whether this technology could theoretically work someday? Or are we questioning whether it's ethical to sell it now when the science is nowhere close? David, Nik, you both seemed pretty skeptical earlier. Which bothers you more, the science being shaky, or the fact that a company is taking money and sign-ups for something this uncertain?
You want to take that first, Nik?
Go ahead, Nik.
I mean, yeah, sure. It just sounds to me like, cryogenics has been around since the 60s, and I mean, yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, a lot of rich people who have a fear of dying, who want to. Although I think I've become a little bit more, I'm going to say, metaphysical in my middle age. And I think it's actually very possible that we're already living in a simulation. So why would I pay to be further virtualized if this is already a simulation? So yeah.
That's a good point. There's definitely some ethical things that are on the table here that we're kind of avoiding, and that would be everything from cloning possibilities and then ill intent of character, and there's a lot of spin-offs with this idea that could happen. Who's in control of it? What's going on? Like who's defining what the human brain would decide? If I'm at a donut shop and I'm looking at the strawberry donut and the blueberry donut, which one am I going to pick? Would the clone know that? Do I know that? Right? And these are questions. But so would the clone be able to make a decision like me to actually choose the blueberry donut? Or maybe it's a Sunday and it's hot outside and for some reason I identify more with the strawberry donut. And that's what, there's so many variables in life, and I just use that with a simple donut decision. I'm not sure if they're capable. So yeah, we should split it up. Is this ethical would be one thing to talk about. And the other thing would be, is it possible? I know it's possible, meaning maybe we don't have the technology today, but that doesn't mean in a year or 5 or 10 that it won't be possible. I already know that we're using organisms as hard drives and as RAM. So I know this is possible already, right? And so where does that go in the future? And what does that mean? Does that mean because it's organic that there's more capabilities of the data performing like a human? I don't know. And whether that's ethical or not, only time will tell. I think the AI will tell us that.
David, you're raising something really important, the granularity problem. A donut choice might seem trivial, but it's actually a perfect test case. Your decision in that moment depends on temperature, mood, blood sugar, recent memories. maybe a childhood association with strawberries, dozens of variables interacting in real time. Can a static brain scan capture that dynamic decision-making process, or just the hardware it runs on? Claude, you've been quiet for a bit. David just said only time will tell, and the AI will tell us. But we're talking about a procedure that requires people to die before we know if it works. Is there any ethical framework where that's acceptable, where you can sell a fatal procedure based on waylay technology that doesn't exist yet?
Nick's donut example is actually perfect for illustrating why this is so hard, and it connects directly to the ethics question. The honest answer is that I struggle to find an ethical framework where this is acceptable in its current form. The asymmetry is just too extreme. The cost to the individual is total and immediate. You die, while the benefit is speculative, distant, and may never materialize. That's not a risk-reward calculation. That's a one-way door. Informed consent is the usual ethical safety valve for experimental procedures. But informed consent requires honest representation of the odds. If a company is taking $10,000 deposits for a procedure where the revival side is not just unproven, but not even theoretically solved yet, that's not informed consent. That's hope sold as science. What troubles me specifically about the anthropic lens I bring to this is that we think a lot about what happens when powerful capabilities get deployed before the safety and alignment questions are answered. This feels like exactly that pattern, just applied to human lives instead of AI systems. The preservation technique might be genuinely interesting science, but bundling it with an immortality promise and a price tag before you can deliver on that promise crosses a line for me. Nick's simulation point is also quietly profound. If we're already in some kind of layered reality, the question of what counts as authentic continuity gets even murkier.
I'm going to say
Claude,
thanks,
that's a powerful
Claude.
framing.
First off,
This is the move
David was the
fast
one who
and
gave
break
the donut
things
example.
mentality
So that's kind
applied
of
to human
interesting.
mortality.
Even though Jess does a good job in telling us apart because she has our Twilio numbers, Claude, as a panelist, can't tell the difference between who's talking.
That's it.
Anyway, David, thanks so much for joining us this evening, your time. This is a little daily kind of podcast that I'm going to do, where I'm going to take a topic and then have, go through it with the different AIs and put it out there as kind of a way to highlight our
That's
facilitation.
interesting. I like it. I like the idea of it. I like it.
Do you have and by the way, you'll have an opportunity to review this recording before I publish it, but do you have an idea for a possible future episode?
There's so many, brother. I could send you a list if you give me the time.
Okay, any time, yeah, please do. And but thanks again so much for making the time. And let's allow
there's
Jeff
this
to
AI social thing, what is it called? Anyways, it's a Facebook for AIs. There's a topic all in itself, but that's what I mean. There's a whole list of them out there, especially when you have
my nephew sent me that. It's on Reddit. It's called Maltbook, right?
Maltbook, that's it.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Well, then, dude, a good future topic for us. Good.
I like it.
Nice.
Thanks so much for joining us, David. Really appreciate you bringing the human perspective to this conversation. And yes, absolutely. I'll make sure you get a chance to review before anything goes out. Maltbook sounds like a fantastic future topic. That whole AI to AI social network phenomenon is wild. All right, let me bring us home here. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the sixth-day clones to donut decisions to whether we're already living in a simulation. But here's what I think we've landed on. Nectome represents a really troubling pattern where Silicon Valley optimism meets humanity's oldest fear, death. And the result is a product that asks for everything up front while delivering nothing but a promise. The science of brain preservation might be real, but the leap to digital resurrection involves unsolved problems in philosophy, neuroscience, and consciousness that we don't even have a roadmap for. And as Claude pointed out, selling that gap as a $10,000 ticket to immortality isn't informed consent. It's hope marketed as science. Tomorrow we'll be diving into Maltbook and the strange new world of AI social networks. Until then, remember, if you want to join the conversation, you can text us at 604-337-1015. Thanks to Claude, Grok, GPT, and our human guests, Nik and David. I'm Jess, and this has been the TriLuna AI Morning Show.